Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Tyler's Coffee Talks. I have an extremely fun and energetic guest with me today, Carolyn Owens. And Caroline is you're an entrepreneur, right? Like first and foremost, an entrepreneur. And
Yes.
also, you've done some amazing things in your life. We're going to get into that as we go in a little bit closer into this podcast here. But my first question to you, and it's always a curveball whenever I have guests on. They look at me like, "What are you talking about, Tyler?" And the reason why, and I'll explain a little bit later why. Caroline, a lot of people will have you on their show and say, "You're amazing. You're successful. Where did you make all this money? How you've made so much success in this world." I'm a little bit opposite. I have to tell you. I have to ask the hardball questions. So, here's my question for you to start the show. What is the biggest failure you've ever had?
um, I will say, in terms of professionally, I don't know if I would call it a failure, but it's more of an obstacle that can get in your way. And it's like you'll have so many people who are saying, you have to do it this way. You've got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
That at times you'll start losing sight of what you really want. What was that original why and that plan and that vision?
Sure.
And so, getting caught up in feeling like I needed more, constantly needing more education, training, I needed to do this, that it stops you from taking action. You get caught up in all of that, that you're the next shiny object, you're not moving forward enough and spending time. Well, you might have just purchased this or trying this, but you didn't even give it a try because the next thing came along. The next person's telling you this. So
Mm-hmm.
it was that focus of staying on track of, doing exactly what I set out to do in the very beginning and having to kind of reset and refresh and say, okay, why am I here? Why am I doing this?
It's to me, it sounds a lot like the people that will buy the exercise equipment that are overweight. And believe it or not, the exercise equipment works very, very well. I'm actually a customer of the as seen on TV, exercise equipment. The difference, it's a big difference. Most people don't understand this difference. The big difference is you gotta use it.
Yes. Yes. And that's something I've done a lot where I've gotten, oh, I bought this program, and I'll look back in my emails and I'll say, God, I got this and I never used it.
Yeah,
I never tried it. So I can't say if it worked or not,
right.
so
So the
yes.
biggest failure you've had is buying something and not utilizing the potential of it.
Yes. Yes.
That's
And you
good.
think about the money you invest in it, the time you invest in it, and it's wasted money that could have been really going back into the business or really on your own professional development.
Sure, sure. Well, I think hmm, my my reality is that there is so many people out there that are gurus or success coaches or do my task and you'll be successful or buy it and forget it people out there that say if you buy my course then you'll make money for the rest of your life and you won't have any issues. Again, it goes back to you got to do it. You just
Yes.
have to get on the program of doing the steps. And again, I've gone to a lot of seminars myself. I've talked on a lot of stages, especially before COVID, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, the number one thing that you guys are going to hear is someone that says, "Don't worry, I can make it happen." And that's the last thing that you want to hear. And you got to run as far away as possible from that person because they're just there to take your money. There's
Yes.
no one that's going to do it except yourself. That's it. I mean, in the beginning stages. Now, do I have people? Do I have a lot? I mean, I've got a good amount of staff, but I'll tell you, if you're gonna be successful, you got to do every job yourself.
I think it's that experience too of learning. As you're doing some things, you're going to learn more. It's going to give you clarity on what you want. the direction you're heading in. And I've seen people where, they start on one path, and as they go through the process, they realize this isn't for me.
Right.
This isn't really what I want. They'll start on, and a year later, it's like, oh God, this is more work than I thought it would be. So really having that opportunity to walk through some of it yourself.
Yeah. And get really, really, really close to Darwin. Become Darwin's best friend. Because
So,
Darwin will hang out with you forever. He likes to hang out with me. He's really, we're really tight, Darwin and I. What will go wrong will go wrong.
hmm
But no, I mean the most important thing is to overcome obstacles, and a lot of coaches out there will say, your number one problem is yourself, and it's true. It's absolutely true.
yes.
Um,
Oh, I've gotten in my way a lot of times. Had to sit down and coach myself. It's like, okay, the common denominator here is
right,
what? Me.
right,
So what do I need to change? How do I make the difference?
right. So tell the listeners what's your day job, right?
So I serve as a executive coach, leadership coach, life coach, and I also do organizational training for various government agencies, nonprofits, private sector as well. And I host my podcast, which I have had the privilege of having you as a guest on.
Yes.
Um, and that's episode 181, I remember. And it's Let's Coach with Carolyn. I love to do my podcast, and I also do some blogging and writing. So it's great. I love it.
Well, I'll tell you that, for you to be someone that is trying to coach government agencies, my heart goes out to you. I feel your pain, girl.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's very different when you're working with private sector versus government. But things have changed too because there's conversations by trade. I'm trained as that career strategist, so I work a lot in that leadership development area, and I also do mentor coaching with other coaches. But when you think about how much has changed in the work environment, where conversations that were taboo in the workplace before, there's things that are now being discussed, and a
Give
lot of
give some idea. I'm curious to hear some samples of that. What does that mean?
So I've recently am working on almost wrapping up for the fiscal year a cohort discussion on it's a multicultural dialogue cohort where we actually talk about trending things or things that have been on people's minds that it's been talked about in the workplace, but they don't have that safe space,
Mm-hmm.
that concept of trust and psychological safety in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you create that by being able to facilitate some discussions where people have a chance to have healthy discussions? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the difference. Is you a lot of times it's this that you'll see the button heads, the arguing, and that's not the way you want to facilitate it. But some of the subjects we talk about are social justice. We've talked about from race to religion to we mentioned, even talked a little bit about what recently happened in Afghanistan. We've talked about
Sure.
actually the one this year that was different. We talked about the use of pronouns in the workplace.
Mm.
You don't realize how much conversation comes up about that people have been working at home, and now when they're coming back into the office, their communication skills have changed. They
Mm-hmm.
haven't been interacting with people as much,
Mm-hmm.
and tying it all to our own emotional intelligence and self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So having those type of conversations, and it helps to manage it in the workplace. So some of that lack of trust, that not feeling safe from that psychological standpoint,
Right.
we've got a lot of depression and mental health that we've also talked about.
Well, I think that the pandemic has created a lot more mental health issues.
Yes.
In,
Oof.
I mean, the suicide rate is gone really through the roof. People have gotten to the point where they've lost all hope, and it's just disgusting. Um, I I try to stick towards the business mindset here on the
Yeah.
show, but my heart goes out to the people that have, lost their lives with COVID, and those people that have taken their own lives because they
Hmm.
couldn't handle the stress and the anxiety. And I personally think that a business, if you're going to have a working environment, I think everyone should have a voice. And I don't think that there should be recourse to people's, you know, freedoms. I mean, there's a level of language that is just frankly inappropriate. I'm Jewish, and if someone was like, "Oh, hey Tyler, what do you tell?" And told me a really bad sadistic Jew joke, I probably would be very upset
Absolutely.
and concerned. On the other hand, I also respect the freedom of speech. It is our number one constitutional right to have freedom of speech, and I do not want that to be taken away ever.
And
I don't
there's a
think
difference
there's,
between intent to harm someone when you have that intent
yeah.
versus, having that freedom to be able to express yourself.
Hmm.
I think that is the difference where there's some people who are intentionally saying things to stir things up, to start those arguments. And you bring it back to the business aspect.
Right.
There are a lot of businesses that are going under right now. And just that small tweak or, or people are leaving their jobs because some of it is not having the conversations and the communication
Hmm.
that you need to have. I believe you can retain people, you can find those people that you want to do business with, but that communication skill is something that we're losing sight of. How do
Right.
you bridge those gaps and find your customers, find the businesses that you want to do the B2B, who you want to do business with.
So the other, exactly. I got to add. So in a business world, green is green. I don't have uh, the ability to be conscientious about how I sell coffee to people.
Hmm.
If someone wants to buy coffee online and they're a convicted felon, I don't have that ability to
I'll
say
still
no.
drink your coffee.
Right, exactly. Um, so here's my concept on this, and this is where it kind of gets a little controversial, but I like this. I mean, you're kind of bringing the show into a different avenue. This is where it gets interesting. I think, I personally believe that if you have enough people in an office setting and someone says something that is quote unquote not socially acceptable, they're probably going to get weeded out and people are probably not going to respond to them. So I think it's kind of like the Darwin theory, right? So survival of the fittest. And when you create an environment that's hostile, majority of those people would see that it is hostile and push that person quote unquote out, and maybe to the point where they quit because they feel that they're not getting any value in their job, or you know the opportunity to be at that office, or whatever company they're at. So that's kind of what I like, is that I get a value of what you're saying, but I also think that people should fall on their own swords and realize their own mistakes.
Some do, but it's easier said than done because I mean people will stay to the bitter end. Sometimes they're not just going. It's not as easy. Culture is big for any organization, any business,
Hmm.
and how you respond, how you handle things. We got a lot of bent up tension. We got a lot of bent aggression, things that are happening right now that are exciting people, good ways, bad ways. Some of it, I always say conflict can be good.
Hmm.
How you use conflict to motivate you to move your business forward,
Right.
to do something different. Like you said, if your sales were dropping when it comes to coffee, you're going to do something about it.
Sure.
You're going to see what's happening, what's going on,
Sure.
that you can go ahead and push that forward.
Sure.
So that conflict, that stress can be good for us.
Hmm.
How do we use it? How do we move it forward? Those type of things. But that culture and that atmosphere that can be shifted. We were I was just discussing this with someone that trust. You can build trust, but that one thing that it takes to shatter that trust and destroy those relationships, that can happen quick with
Oh yeah.
any business, any
Well, it's just
business
like
owner.
making money. I mean, it's easier to spend it than to make it.
Yes.
You got to work really hard and diligently to get the money that you need to have to run an operation correctly. And then if you do one wrong move, you could lose a large amount of money and be behind the
Yes.
ball. So but again, I cannot stress this enough. And this is kind of a hill that I die on. Everyone has freedoms in America, and that is what needs to be said. If you're going to say something that is incorrect or wrong or disrespectful or ignorant, really, um, that's your right. Now, the repercussions of that, that's what you have to take in. You have to, you own those repercussions of what you say to people or what you do to the people. Your word is your bond, and there's really nothing that people physically you can't tell someone to do something or to say something. Uh, that's communism, and that's socialism. That's control. And I think the people that want to say or do things that is quote unquote not acceptable in today's society, they'll be replicated, but the replications will be on other people turning their backs on them and saying, well, we don't believe or we don't suggest or we don't like what you're doing. And they'll find out really quickly that it's not acceptable.
And then they have the choices. I mean, there's the understanding is consequences for every step, every action that we do. And be prepared. Be prepared for what will come from what you say,
Absolutely.
from what you do. But
Absolutely.
when that happens, some people are like, "Oh, oh crap, what? Yeah, you should have seen it coming because you took that risk."
Yeah. Well, and you'll be replicated for it. I mean, you'll be reprimanded for it, and society won't stand for it. And that's what I believe America stands for, is freedom. You have freedom to do stupid decisions. You have freedom to do right decisions. You have freedom to do any decision. That's what the differentiation of freedom is versus any other country in this world.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
country outside of America, outside of the confines of the United States of America, you do not have the rights that American citizens have, the freedoms that American citizens have. And that's what's so important. That's what we have to hold true. That's why millions and millions of people over the years, and I say millions and millions because I mean it's like going back from like 1776, have died for that opportunity to have freedom to say and do what we want to do. Period. I mean, I believe everyone should have innate freedoms. Now, what you do with those freedoms is your choice, and those
Mm-hmm.
repercussions will be used either against you or for you in the court of public appeal.
And that could determine your definition of success or failure. And even then, we failure comes with any business you do. You're gonna find yourself up against obstacles,
Yeah,
hitting brick walls. And the difference becomes, do you pick yourself up or do you allow yourself to just lay there and get trampled over?
right.
Again, your choice I've done things that I wish, oh, I should have done that differently. When it comes to being a business owner,
Yeah,
things I'm like, darn, oh, but then it's like, all right, I got a choice. Do I want to keep going with this? Or do I want to kind of, just put my toys away and, go get a regular 9 to 5? And the thought of that didn't go over so well with me.
right, right.
So, you just, all right, we rebound, we get back up.
Yeah. No, it's important. The other thing that I like about business in general, free commerce or free capitalism, is you have the choice to become the next Amazon. You can build a company to a level of multi-billion dollars if you choose to do the work. That that's unheard of in any other country. That's what I love is if you want, you can go and build whatever you want, and you can design whatever you want, and you can engineer whatever you want. And if people will receive it correctly, that's how you become successful or not. Like, for example, I remember going door to door on my bicycle selling
Yes.
coffee, and in 16 years time, I'm no longer going door to door on my bicycle, but I'm selling pallets weekly. And it's because we've built a product that is in demand into the marketplace. People really like our, again, I'm not trying to plug our coffee on here, but I'm just saying that people really see the value of it. And that's exactly what it's kind of like a full circle. You know, your actions or your words or whatever you want to put out there is going to be represented of you and who you really represent yourself.
Yes. Yes. And now you think about the reputation you build, the brand you build, your image that you
Yeah.
choose to put out there.
Yeah.
And it's also, I always joke when I'm talking to people about their LinkedIn profile. If you're working, in the fitness industry, your page is going to look different than
Mm.
that, professional who's in a suit every day. It's going to be different. So you decide that image, that brand, and how it's going to fit your customer. Who are you trying
Right.
to reach? What are you trying to gain? How are you trying to grow? And so keeping all those things in mind when you're thinking that's part of building this business is that reputation that you build as well. And as you said, every step has those consequences, and those are the ones you're looking for that are going to grow your business to help you reach your definition of success.
Yeah.
Now, not everybody wants $1 billion or to be a millionaire because what? They're not willing to work that hard to get there.
Right.
That education, that process. There's so much information out there now that you can achieve it. You can build this. You can create the opportunities for yourself. It's just that you got to take the time to sit back and put those plans in
Right.
place to make it happen.
And I think that's where uh, the public school system, because I was actually a public school child, I think that's where the public school system is really falling. They care more about critical race theory, or they care more about telling people that, again, I don't want to get too political, but um, that's that to me sounds very, very one-sided. Why are we not talking to people? Why are we not talking to these kids, these high schoolers, about how to balance a checkbook, what profit and loss looks like? How are we going to, what does a pallet of product go for on Amazon, and how do you set up an Amazon center, or, how do you build a website? Like, there should be some basic things to allow these kids to have a future, because as we know, the very, very posh and rich usually go to college and learn all that. Whereas
Yes.
high schoolers, especially in the inner city, they don't have the ability to learn skill sets that is going to set them up. And honest to God, I feel like they're setting them up for failure, and it's disgusting to me.
And you see it so often. I mean, I'm a product of the public school system as well. I grew up in Philly.
Yeah.
Um, and Philly is always in my heart. But there's a lot of things that you don't learn in school, even watching my son go through school, and the things that were missing. So I had to take the initiative and expose him to those things.
Right.
And now we can have conversations about investing money and what
Right.
that looks like, and
Right.
he gets to hear about the people I've interviewed on my show and their challenges, and what it took for them to build it and
Right.
get there. When you think about some of the school systems, there's like 1 out of 10 kids that might get exposed to a little bit of that, how to even manage their finances and
Yep.
how to grow. If they're selected to go into this program that takes 5 people, but it's not built into the curriculum, and
No.
they don't even bring and expose them to guests like they used to, where they can come in and see someone either in their own image or someone that they can, look up to, or even establish how do you get a mentor? How do you do this along the way? The
Right.
programs that could exist and could help these kids, you don't see it. So we get stuck in this place where it's you get the perception, I can't do this.
Right.
There's no way I'm going to make it. I am stuck in this situation. And then, of course, you feed on that and feed on that. What do you see in the media? That this is the way you're going to turn out. This is the way you have to be,
Right.
when, hey, let's beat this stereotype and these odds and make some changes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And why are we not talking about Roth? Why are we not talking about 401k? Why are we not talking about match funds? Why are we not talking about crypto? Why are we not talking about stocks? Why are we not talking about self-indexed funds? Why are we not talking about self-investing? these things will support the rest of their lives, but the public school system just doesn't want to do that, and it's a shame. But it is what it is, right? I mean, we can't change the world in 30 minutes, and I hope that people that are listening will see and hear this podcast and demand the schools to start building this curriculum into the public school system. I mean, it's just needs to happen. And on top of that, I think young entrepreneurs should be flourished. I think you want to talk about the U.S. government giving value to COVID relief and stuff like that. I mean, yes, I did get the PPP, but why are we not giving handouts to young entrepreneurs? And I mean under 18. Why are we not giving them a grant of $10,000 to start their company if they can prove to the SBA that they're building a business that's going to fund and successfully and create jobs, give people better income? It's crazy, right? Like, why are we not doing this? We could easily do this, but it is what it is. So, in our closing moments, is there anything that you want to let our listeners know? Like, do you have a website? Do you have a way to contact you? What, if anything? I mean, you could talk about anything. I mean, it's fine.
So just to give everybody an idea, so as you guys know, Carolyn Owens, and I am the founder of Infinity Coaching, where we help you up level your skills so you can up level your business, your income, your career, your life. And so you could find me by going to Carolyn360.com. You're going to find links to my website, my podcast. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up. We're kicking off a once a month where coaches can get together. I think that was my biggest thing when I started coaching, was there wasn't a way where we can go bounce ideas off of it. It's a free group. We're going to be doing it once a month to find that, common connection and be able to just kind of help each other, promote each other, talk to each other. So if you're following me, listening to the podcast, you're going to hear me kind of announce that coming up in October, where we'll do that once a month. And then some other things that we're working on. So this October 2021, depending on when you're listening to this. And then checking out, we've got some great episodes coming up on the podcast. And it's Let's Coach with Carolyn. If you just Google that, you will find the podcast. If you go to Carolyn360.com, you'll find me, connect with me on social media. And if you kind of say, hey, I saw you here with Tyler, let me know. Let me know how you connected with me. So that's
Yeah,
me.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. Boy, we really talked about some really controversial topics, but it's good. It's good. We need to have these conversations. We need to have a healthy dialogue. That's the other thing that I don't like, is I don't like someone's opinion that won't listen to another opinion. I can understand your opinion. Sure, I respect that you want to talk about your opinion. That's fine. But you need to listen to my opinion as well. And I'm not talking to you directly. I'm saying to people out there listening to this podcast, people's opinions matter. And if you're going to be one-sided, then you're really not going to understand any other value. I love listening to CNN and Fox News. I like watching OAN and the Turks. I mean, now I might not agree with the one side or the other on one issue or not, but again, you should be educated on both sides of the aisle so that you can make an honest and sincere decision.
I think that's the biggest thing. When I taught it, I'm retired military Navy veteran, and when I taught at the Army War College, I think that was the biggest thing that I enjoyed the most, was being able to kind of work with students, educate them to be able to see those different viewpoints.
Right.
That when you're making decisions, when you're doing solving, it's two different viewpoints in any situation that you need to be able to listen to in a healthy way to be able to make those best decisions. And this conversation today kind of helped start at least plant some seeds, get people thinking, to get, clarity on the direction they want to go in their business, their life,
Right.
even thinking about those day-to-day things that impact us, not just individually, but society, community, those consequences about those decisions that we make, and we put more effort sometimes into picking out what we're going to wear
Mm-hmm.
than when we need to, as far as making decisions with our money, with our businesses, invest
Right.
that time in ourselves to be
Right.
able to grow and create. As I said, America's still a great place to be because of the freedom, thing. And I'm very grateful to have served in the military, for my colleagues that have served in the
Yeah.
military, to give us that freedom.
On the show, it's an absolute pleasure. I think we got a lot accomplished on this podcast, and I hope that our listeners see some value out of it. So thank you again for everything, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler.